Okay, perfect. Chat, so this monitor. Yeah, good. Christina's just saying hi back to Kimberly. Excellent. So we got it's the beginning of the month. It's June. I cannot believe it is June already. In some ways I can't believe it's finally here, and in other ways I just can't believe it is June already. I've been last year with the rain, and I'm a weekend golfer at best. Like if I can sneak away during the week, sure, but mostly play on the weekends. And I wasn't able to start golfing till July last year because of the rain, just coordinated with the weekend so well and other things. But I've already played 3 times this year in May, so it's like the weather's just been awesome this year.
Yeah.
But it being the beginning of June, this is our sector update. We do 2 meetings a month. We do a sector update to kind of share what we see going on in the environment around us. That could be like a little micro sector in terms of your world, or the broader one. I've got a couple of little things to start us off in terms of the broader sector in terms of what's going on. And then the 3rd Tuesday of the month, we got a member update. And the whole point of the 2, and I say this every time, is to keep us informed of what's going on so we can work together better. We can support each other better. The sectors, I feel like it gives us a better understanding of your world, and there could be analogies in terms of what's going on in our world. It could be going on that we're not seeing. And the member updates obviously is like, hey, this is what I've been up to lately. This might be an interesting project that might be slightly outside of my normal value prop, but is a good extension for me, and it just gets us to know you better. And I'll give an example. Like Miranda was posting on LinkedIn. I caught it. She was talking about, which is a great idea. Like, hey, I'm not, just because we're in this region doesn't mean we don't just, Miranda's videography, photography, doesn't mean I don't just shoot in this region. And it just so happened to be, I was working on an RFP for Northern, and it was out in Calgary, and it was for Invest Calgary. So it was a real, there's a real local component on that. And it's like, okay, we definitely need to hire somebody locally to shoot this. And then because Miranda was saying how she has contacts in different cities and that's how she runs, I'm like, okay, this is a great solution. Somebody I know who has access to a local talent there. I can use the whole thing in the RFP. And it's been really rushed. I think I picked up the RFP Wednesday, and it sat on my desk because of other things on. And then I finally connected with you, Friday, Miranda, or something like that, to try and make it. And now we're trying to rush to get everything in place to get it out the door for a Monday delivery. So it's just one of those things. Like when you hear things, you kind of remember and you get a better picture of what everybody does and how that can fit in what's used. That's the whole purpose of it. So does anybody want to go first? Or you want me to kind of kick things off? If you go first, that saves me having to talk some more. That's really supportive of me. What about Preston? If I always push Preston whenever he's on, I always like get him because he's always got something going on that's new. Preston, and you could totally say no here. Can I get you to kick us off? What's going on in your world?
Absolutely. You think I'll ever pass up an opportunity like that to talk?
Awesome. Thank you, sir.
Awesome. So I think I've met most of the folks on the call here today, but for those of you guys who haven't, my business card's right here. You can connect with me here. Just go ahead and scan it, and it'll get me in your contacts, as well as it'll give an opportunity for us to connect. So highly recommended it. What's new in Preston's world right now? Well, like most of you guys, AI is huge. AI is really big right now. And if you haven't touched into it as yet, there's a new thing called vibe coding of websites, right? I don't know if anybody has ever had an experience doing vibe coding so far. Absolutely mind-blowing. So it's like me having an agency and dealing with people building websites and stuff like that over the years, it's completely revolutionized the way we can do things right now. And I highly recommend, if you haven't played around with it as yet, to try it out. If not, look into upgrading your website, because what vibe coding allows us to do is to not just have a static website online, but have what's called a smart website, right? And we went through those phases. We went from smartphones to smart cars to smart emails and stuff like that you can engage it. Well, the new wave for us as marketers, start thinking of having a website that's smart, meaning it actually does something cool for you out there, right? So not just a website, you're doing a website for yourself. For example, Richard, you're doing RFPs and looking for opportunities to do quotes. Well, you can generate a smart feature into the website that can pre-qualify leads or engage them in advance to you coming on. And it's as easy as chatting as you would to like an AI tool for it. So I've been losing sleep over the last couple of weeks. It's been insane. Ask Marta. That's all I'm talking about. Smart websites. All right. If I have more time next time, I can actually show you guys a quick demo. But overall, that's my tip. Try it out.
I'm so impressed you're talking about that. I'm working on an RFP. It's really tight, and this might be the first time. So Northern has certain technology that they are attributed to. So Drupal and WordPress for open source. They're getting in. They got a good partnership with Adobe, so the AEM sites and whatnot. But there's one site that we're looking at, and it has a lot to do with the market slowing down a little bit too, right? So this one's coming a little tighter. There is no like the on the RP they specifically state they don't need to update the content as frequently. So actually for the first time looking at pitching this as just a static site, but I was looking into it, and we're looking at like your smart sites, and like I'm on the very beginning of it. Like there's some sites from what I read, and I don't know how practical these are. And I was going to ask you if you ran into this, Preston, where it doesn't have a database, it doesn't have everything. It can personalize on the fly. It can develop pages as the person's coming in and intuitively understand what they're looking for. So it's like a completely dynamic static site through AI. And I read about it, I'm like, come on, that seems like nonsense. But at the same time, I'm thinking, I could see that happening, right? Is that sort of, have you gotten that far with it, or is it different?
Yeah,
when you're talking about
it. I got pretty deep into it. And at first, to be honest, I was very concerned about things like security, SEO, and all those other things that we talked about with it. But right now, you can actually do advanced SEO and advanced security checkpoints on it. If you obviously you have to have a bit more knowledge about using Claude and Claude Code and Codex and so forth with it. But a novice could get it to a good part, and then you'd probably dial it with somebody like me to take it over the edge. Right now, believe it or not, even though I can do this and I show people as usual, that's what my always thing is. I like to show abundantly. I'll always have a percentage of people that be like, yeah, that's cool, but I don't want to do it. Right? Marta, Preston, I'm always excited. Like, check this out. Check Preston. I don't want to know how to do it. Just do it. Right? And that is often like the space that I kind of thrive with. But yes, totally, you can do it. You want to change something in the future. You want to add a new feature. And sometimes the AI suggests things to you. Like if you've used Claude might ask you questions that you didn't even think of asking. Right? And it puts it in. Okay.
I also heard from a security standpoint, right off the get-go, it eliminates a lot of the things that are typical of the website. Like there's no database, there's no SQL injection worry. There's no files existing anywhere until it gets created. So there's no worry about somebody taking over your site and things like that. So there's some stuff that right off the fly that kind of takes care of a lot of security on it. And I was also thinking and I don't know if this is viable yet, but like from a content management perspective, the whole purpose of a content management system is to allow a non-coder or non-techie to be able to manage their site without having to overly rely on support, right? Well, is this going to ever get to a stage where you just talk to the site and tell it what you want to change? Hey, I need to update this. Can you make a suggestion? Hey, we've been doing these type of projects. Our business model is slightly changing. Can you rewrite that? And I know from a writing perspective, I know it can handle that kind of stuff, but I don't know with the like, hey, give it to a senior person. They develop a site and they give it back to you. Can that novice person manage it as if they were running a content management? But that was what was wheeling around in my brain when I was looking at it. So
yeah, what I'm doing right now for it, because I do have a lot of clients who have like personal blogs and stuff that they do separately. I still a little bit tiptoeing into it. I'm still using WordPress for the blog standpoint because you have the ability of creating a template and they can just put text in and it'll keep it nice with that. So I'm doing like a hybrid with the site. So I create a subdomain for the blog so the customer can still go in, they're comfortable with that, but the front end of the website looks and functions extremely tight. All right.
That makes total sense.
I shared a link in the chat for you guys to check out. Like that was a page that I built over the weekend. Probably took me about 2 hours or so. And I was just playing around with this and seeing what can I do. Like I embedded a YouTube video in it. I created an interactive demo. I did a product tour. Like just name it, whatever I could think, imagine. I was just able to create on the fly. And in the old days, I would need to like even beyond my skills, right? Going to like coding and all kind of madness. So there's a, for example, there's a, in the side corner, there's a chat widget, the blue one. That's an AI chat. So
hang on, let me just get rid of some of this other stuff that's in my way here. Okay, AI chat. Can you see that?
Yeah, you can talk, ask it a question. Like, it's not me, but it's gonna answer a question. Like, I mean, you're like, oh, Preston, I've seen chat widgets before, but it was literally the amount of time it took me to create that was seconds.
I'm just gonna say, I don't know. I can't think of anything else.
Yeah.
Okay, how fast that is.
I would walk you through exactly. I try to book you a demo.
Nice.
I gotta go back in and say, hey, could you just be a little more helpful? Because the instruction I gave it was to try and collect leads for me.
Nice. Oh yeah, no, that makes sense. That makes sense. So it's like,
and then
I've seen a lot of the chats like, give me your, hey, before we get started, what's your name? Oh, and hey, what's your email address in case we get disconnected? But that's a,
it went a little to the point of getting me the lead, which is what I told it to do, but I should have said it to be a little bit more interactive. But all of this stuff is just like using brand colors and stuff like that. So even if you have a product that you sell in your things, and you can just go in and create a custom page. This has nothing to do with my brand. This is not my brand website. This is just a complete new landing page that was created for it. And it's built on the Go High Level framework, right? Oh. So everything here integrates directly. Look at this. This is interactive. Look at it, an interactive tool here, right? It shows a business money, how much money their value they're getting per month by using this tool. And it works for real.
That's really cool.
Yeah. It had pricing. It made me give pricing annually and monthly. If it asked me for an account bump, I'm like, oh my gosh.
Very cool. All right, I'll stop sharing here.
I'm sharing. You see what happens, Richard? Ask me to talk. I run with it. So I'm going to shut up now. Respect everyone else in the room.
That's good. Look how long I had to rest there. That's good. That's excellent. Yes. No, and in all seriousness, that is like cutting edge stuff. So I appreciate you sharing that.
It is brand new. It's not even like 1% of the world is not on it yet. So it's a competitive edge if you can get in on it.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing. Anybody else want to go first? My high level one is going to be boring stuff in terms of what's going on with the economy and some other stuff I'm seeing flying around. So I'll take us way up there into that boring world unless you want to go first. So
I'd love to know. I'd love to meet Michael.
Yeah, Michael. Yes. Sorry, Michael. I should let you introduce yourself right away. Go ahead, Michael.
Thank you, and thank you for inviting me. Richard was introduced to me by a network contact up here where I am. I'm in Mulmer, which is halfway between Orangeville and Collingwood, Shelburne and Alliston. So I'm up in the sticks. My business is helping business owners with their succession and transition exit readiness. So working with business owners to do an assessment up front to figure out where the gaps are in terms of value or in plan, and then working with them to implement that plan towards a succession, and whether that succession is imminently planned, like in the next 12 months, or it's something that's out on the horizon, 5 to 10 years, the fundamentals are effectively the same in terms of getting the business ready, removing some of the risks, positioning it for growth opportunities, and having it ultimately operate independent of the owner. So I'm at very early stage. I'm spending about 110% of my time networking with some small first clients. But my goal here is just to meet everyone and to hear about your business, how I might be able to help, and also to, as I'm networking with opportunities, have a roster of other entrepreneurs that I can potentially recommend and introduce as well. So thank you.
I'm trying to remember. You met Miranda, right? Like that's the first thing I asked. Oh, you're near Orangeville. You must know Miranda.
Yeah, Miranda was kind to introduce me to the Dufferin Board of Trade, and was very helpful in just getting me to meet people within that group. So happy to see you here.
So who introduced Richard and Michael then?
Tyler.
I want to say it was Tyler. Okay, I was going to say Rob Manny, but it was You're right, Tyler. That's right. Tyler knows everybody and everybody as well. And he's kind of up in that. I didn't realize Collingwood's sort of near you guys, sort of ish, closer to than it is to me, right? Sort of, not really? No,
I mean,
I'm way off
it's
there.
an hour from Orangeville. It's still an hour.
Okay. So it's about the
Yeah.
same as I rub my red eyes from allergies. Sorry about that. Oh gosh. Once you touch it once, you can't stop rubbing it. So I can't remember your Mike's gonna come to Mike. Do you mind if I see I have my brother's name Michael. I'll probably end up calling you Mike about 5 times, even if you tell me that.
Yeah, I'm fine with either.
Okay. You're coming to a couple. I forget which one. You're gonna go to the Toronto one or the Mississauga one? I can't remember the in-person ones.
I'm trying to do the Mississauga and the Toronto. I have conflict on for the Hamilton one.
Mississauga one, I think David Prowse might be coming by. He's the one I told you about. He does he's a CPA and he's also got his business valuation, but most in the States, and he represents a company that does it. So good, you guys would probably have good conversations on there. Sometimes Jody's the other one I was talking to you about. That sometimes she comes up. I don't know if she signed up for Mississauga, but she'll come up. She's in Hamilton, but she'll come as far. And Miranda definitely makes the journey down because apparently Mississauga is the closest. Well, if we get enough people showing up that are north, I'll have to start going up towards you guys. We'll have to have a place up there so that I'm the one traveling up there. And then Montreal, I have not made it up to see Preston and Montreal though, but I've threatened to be up there sometime. I love Montreal. I used to go down all the time when my grandma was living. I was actually born out there in LaSalle and El Perot. I spent some time. So there you go. But so what is on the horizon for you, Michael? You already talking, so maybe you can get what are you seeing in this world that we're in that gives you some opportunity in your market?
So the majority of people that I'm speaking with now are the other business advisors, so the CPAs, the lawyers, the wealth managers, the people that are already engaged with the business, and there's a very strong appetite for what I'm offering, albeit short of signed contracts. Everyone is really good at providing their silo of expertise or their depth in any particular expertise. But where the succession planning and where the exit planning or transition falls apart is the actual implementation of a plan. So how I'm trying to position myself is as a coordinator to the process, or for lack of a better, if any of you guys are all marketers, so you can help me with this, because I don't like to use the word quarterback, but effectively a quarterback, where someone is managing that specific project on behalf of the owner, so the owner can continue to run the business, and someone is connecting the accountant and the lawyer and the wealth manager, so everyone's on the same page. So I'm getting good traction with that, and there seems to be a lot of people that are thinking about transition or succession at some point in the future, but it's an easy thing to procrastinate. There's probably going to be about $1 trillion worth of business transition over the next decade. So it's kind of on everyone's horizon without actually doing anything about it. That's my initial take from the last 6 to 8 weeks of just being out there meeting people.
BDC, Business Development Canada, Montreal said 1 in 5 companies are thinking about it very soon or in the process of it. And that a lot of those will actually just leave the company because they can't find succession. They don't have a succession plan. Selling is too difficult or whatever for whatever reason. So interesting stuff.
80% of businesses are essentially an asset sale because there's no strategic plan. And then what's even more interesting that I learned recently is more than 75% of business owners profoundly regret selling their business 1 year post-sale because they're not personally ready for what life is like not being involved in the business. So just looking at the business attributes and the business attractiveness of the transaction leaves out what's happening psychologically with the owner and their family and all the personal dynamics of what happened in that kind of transition to retirement phase. And so many deals will fall because the owner isn't ready for what's coming.
Yeah, that is huge. I think it was Marilyn. I told you about Marilyn Hinsa that does this, like, she calls it like a path change. It doesn't mean your world ends. You can, a lot of people move off to like become a coach or a thought leader or whatever, and whatever expertise they have. But I remember I was trying to think how old I was. My dad sold his company, and because it had to be on the down low, like you don't want to tell everybody in your organization you're thinking of selling, especially if you don't have a buyer. I was bought in and helped him do a lot of the writing behind the scenes because I was family. I'm not going to be. I could trust that I'm not going to share. But I was quite young. I probably was in my 20s, probably early 30s when that was going on. And it was, I can imagine the stress of not being able to ask your team that you've been working with for help, right? So I also ran into another guy. It's through my helping with the digital planning for the federal government, the Canada Digital Adoption Program. And he didn't share with me what his game plan was that he was planning to sell until we were well into the project. And he was planning it to sell it to his actual staff who've been there a long time. So I can see, you're not going to have the time to invest in that. If your business is doing well and you haven't got yourself organized, you're not going to have the time to invest in it. And even if you don't end up selling, there's that, can you take a 6-week vacation without calling in every day? So and I think the other thing I was going to say, Robin, does anybody else know Robin X? They're a pretty good networking brand. They get involved in mergers and acquisitions. Like, are you guys familiar? Martha, you've have to have heard of them. They have a lot of the networking events and they bring a lot of people in. Maybe I'm saying it wrong. I could be. Is it the right name?
Correct. I met with Judy Johnstone last week and I sat in on one of their calls. That was actually another introduction by Tyler. But yeah, they're deeply involved in M&A and they have 130 people in their network of various professions that they get together once a month.
I feel like that's a value add as well. It's like, hey, it's like the contract, like when you're getting work done in your house, right? Like, and I did my basement during pandemic. It was the stupidest time to do it, but it was just bad timing. And you don't know when this thing's going to end. So I just said, screw it, I'm going to do it. And it was word of mouth from a neighbor who'd done stuff. But if that one person can bring in everybody else, it's that concept of a quarterback. It's like, I trust you, Michael, and I trust that you're going to make good judgment of who you're bringing in. And plus what they're saying in the back of their heads, like, I don't want to deal with interviewing 50 different people to take care of what I need to do. So that Robin X concept of having a huge network and knowing those people to bring them in, I think that adds a lot of value to what you're doing. I've certainly met a lot of people in the mergers and acquisitions because for me, that's good fertile ground for shopping, for work for myself. And there's different variants. There's the CPA who will help you with the accounting part of it. There are those that'll help you be found, like shop on the outside without your staff finding out. So there is just people covering little fractions of it, not the whole thing. So that sounds good.
Yeah.
What about you guys? So I was going to talk. As I'm coming up to this, it's like, oh my gosh, I got to say something. I can't think of anything. But the couple of things that have been rattling around in my mind, there's a couple of things that happened that kind of melded together. And one of it, obviously, it was this technical recession that we're not quite in. We're in. We've had 2 downturns of the market, 2 quarters that have gone down, but it's too early to tell if this second quarter is actually making a downturn or could it turn into an upturn after they go through and evaluate. So it's not an actual technical recession, but it's close to it. And then you probably would have heard that Pierre Poilievre sent a letter to Carney's and saying, we need an emergency meeting. Canada is going into recession, blah, blah, blah. And then got out there, posted, because he's really been trying to push. And I'm not trying to make this political. I'm just thinking I like the positioning around it. He's trying to push this idea of challenging Carney on economics in there. And this is another aspect that shows evidence of that, right? But as a sitting government, you're kind of like, the last thing you want people to hear is that there's a recession, or even people in the market itself, because it's like learning about your bank has run out of money. Like if you guys remember, It's a Wonderful Life, and there's a run on the banks, right? This is the last thing you want, because it's just, this thing perpetuates itself. Like you say, there might be a recession, people start holding back. They don't buy that car they're going to buy. They just change their mind, hold off on buying a house, and then that self perpetuates itself. So that was tossing around in my mind. There was an article, and they did a podcast as well in the Globe and Mail, completely different industry, the trucking industry, and talking about bad behavior in that industry because of regulations. But the one thing that really caught my mind in our world is this idea of they're miscategorizing people who are employed as being self-employed, and then taking advantage of them to pay them like they something like they save like $22,000 per person when they say to that person, hey, you're going to run your own company, you're going to get a business number, and I'm going to play you like an outsized company. And then all the things like, the going without being paid, not being, they close their business down, reopen up in a different location. So I just like, are those two things came together for me with I have one other one, which is completely a bit of a stretch here. You have to stick with me. I learned about this concept of microforest, and they were talking about the layering of forests and how all the different species within that forest provide that forest, allow it to grow faster and be more resilient. Actually, control 80% of the weeds going out, and all those three things got me thinking about us in our world. In that, if there's a recession, what does that mean? Already, I'm seeing that in my world, in the RFP, where more even government organizations are trying to take projects internally, fearing spending too much money and what that means if there is going to be a downturn. I see that happening. I've seen a lot more layoffs, and that's just been happening in tech industry, regardless of whether it's a recession or not. But a lot more people entering the market as a freelancer, fractional. And I definitely see us running into challenges from a financial perspective, where somebody's you're not getting paid because they're taking advantage of that. You run your own business, and then you're setting your own terms. Everybody has their own terms. There's all those elements going on, and the forced element is just having a good network of people and a good network of different methodologies of getting business in. That's that layering effect I thought about the forest to kind of protect you and become more resilient. So how's that? Boom! I tied all that together. It has nothing to do with what we do. That was my sector out there. I was pretty creative. If you ask me, I was maybe going knee deep in desperation for having something to say today. So, any other thoughts on that? Anybody else have anything relevant that's happening around them that's sort of interesting, impacting their sectors? And if you don't have anything, that's okay. I'm not going to call you out on that.
I was under the impression that they said that we are going into recession, right? We are in a recession. Did I misunderstand it? Like a day or
There's
two.
like a whole, yeah, and you know what? If I freeze up, guys, I'm having all kinds of trouble with Rogers, and just think I might be thinking a little stronger than I might be. Like, so if you see me freeze up, but it had Russ. So recession, there's without going too much into it, Preston, there's a whole bunch of definitions around what a recession is and what people term as a recession. And that's why, am I freezing? Is it? No.
It was me.
There's a whole bunch. Oh, there's the technical definition of a recession is 2 quarters of GDP dropping, right? And not growing. So that's the technical definition. But then they have a bunch of other definitions, because when they evaluate the GDP, it can have, like I said, this quarter, they come out with a number, but they will revise that number later on as the quarter progresses and say, oh, we've recalculated, we've got more numbers now. And it's actually I think it's right now, it's like in the last quarter of last year, it went down 1%, and this quarter it went down 0.1%. So it's like, it wouldn't take much for it to be actually growing and then cancel out the legal definition or technical definition of it. But then other economists would say it needs to be a stronger downturn. They need to look at other things, like not just GDP, CPI, and then all these other elements, because the market could be appearing to grow if you look at some elements, and if you exclude those out. And I'm already going way too deep on that. But so it's not a recession until they actually announce it. The other thing I saw in the paper the other day is the last major recessions, the downturns of those recessions, when they were at their worst were more like a drop, like 5.3%. So us going on a 1% drop in a last quarter and a 0.1, it really doesn't have the same impact as like what happened in 2008 or the 90s or the 80s, right? It's not the same sort of definition. I don't know if that helps, but it also doesn't help us saying that there's a recession, because everybody starts to act a lot differently when they're worried about that happening in the future, right? You start to think and spend a lot differently. You don't take loans and things like that. Does that make sense, Preston? In my wasted business education?
It makes sense. It makes sense. I want more than a 1% growth, though. That's one.
Yeah, no.
That's over there.
100%, 100%. So
Might-
what
Algae.
what happens to, if you listen to Buffett, right? Warren Buffett, he says, when people are running in one direction hysterically, always head in the opposite direction, right? Don't follow the crowd. So there's a lot of opportunities, obviously, during times like this as well. So, and even if you look at the numbers back at even as early as 2023, 2022, they had worse dips than we have right now. So, I would just say that from a communications perspective, for Polyev to announce that, totally get why he did. It's pretty risky for the government to say something like that because people start hearing it and hear we are in a recession and believe it. And depending on what's going on in their world, they could find lots of evidence around that. Oh, things are not good, right? Go ahead, Marta. Thank you, save me from talking anymore.
You're so funny, Richard. I have a question, really. It's not even an update, but it's a question because I know, for instance, someone like Miranda, you have clients that work with you that also apply for government grants. Are you finding that the response time is very slow, or is it typically normal for you right now? I just feel like I feel like the whole process is crazy, but that's a whole other story. But is the response time normal?
The response time for my clients who are getting grants?
Yes.
I don't know. I mean, I think a lot of them, they are very slow. I don't know if it's slower than normal though, but it does take a long time. I mean, I think we have 2 projects that are being funded through grants, and they have taken a long time to come through. Not necessarily government grants, like one is a TD grant, so maybe they got that easier because it's just TD, I don't know. But I don't know, are you finding that things are taking too long to get the grants?
Yeah, I mean, the time frame is still within the time frame, but I feel like is it in relation to what Richard is talking about, where it's like everything's on the downturn.
Yeah.
So is the government actually reacting slower and not fulfilling their commitment of, the allotted grants they say they're going to give to people? I'm not 100% sure, but it just seems like it. Yeah.
I would assume that the government hasn't actually slowed down the speed that they do their grants. It takes a long time for grants to happen. I sit on a committee and we do grants, and I mean, we plan these grants from like 6 months ago, like it's not gonna react that quickly. No.
Yeah. Okay. Fair. And Richard, I know you have exposure to that too, but I just putting it out there because it's one way for me to work with startups that are obviously more, what's the word? Just open, right? They're not feeling like the money's coming out of their pocket. So clearly they have a different agenda and a different motivation. And when you work with startups that don't have that funding, it's difficult, right? It's very difficult.
I think it's a great idea, Marta. So I've seen a couple. I agree with Miranda. Like it takes you even a government organization, it takes you so long to get a budget in place that once you've got that budget, you're kind of committed to it. What I have seen that is lengthening the response is that there's a lot more competition for the RFPs. I don't know about the grants. I can imagine there be with the grants because people are seeking opportunities wherever they can right now. So like I was sharing with Miranda, I was on one opportunity where there was 100. They always tell you how many, they call them note takers, like how many people downloaded the documents. There's 115 on this one opportunity. And I was seeing everywhere from small little less than 10 shops to like Deloitte's and big major shops taking that. So that's a lot of, if not everybody's going to respond just because they took the document, but that is a lot. I've seen, where I used to get, I might be one of definitely less than 20, but 10 people that applied and we came in a position because we always ask you if you didn't win, position you came in. I've seen like 28 and whatnot responding, even to really, really specific projects. So, but that said, I've seen some of these turn around really quickly too, when they're ready to go. And some of them with incredibly tight timelines, even like once they decide, like we need to get going immediately, which is also, so I don't know, like, yeah, I have seen them slow down a little, but I've also seen some turn around a little bit. It just could depend on what the grant is and how successful they were at attracting people to apply for it, right? It's taking longer to decide. So.
Okay, thanks, guys.
And
Yeah, no
Marta,
worries.
sometimes with grants, depending on if it goes through a committee or if it's like staff, because I mean, the grants that I am part of, it is a government grant, but it's through a voluntary committee. So sometimes there's like many reasons why these things just get delayed and delayed and delayed. Yeah, it really depends on what it is. And I think it's not that you're gonna necessarily see anything from a recession affecting it immediately right now. But if there is a recession, it's going to be the next round of grants, like next year. Those will probably maybe be cut, or there'll just be so many people applying for the same grants that you'll get less. Yeah. I could share something. So I was just speaking with a not-for-profit that was interested in doing some video story work. And what we were saying was that you really have to have something impactful to attract donors and attract the fundraising. So if there is a recession coming, not-for-profits will also be affected or even more affected. So for those of us that work with not-for-profits, we need to find a way that if they are going to invest in our services, that those services will multiply into bigger amounts of fundraising. So that was a conversation I was having today. It was, when we have a really good story that we've executed, that the client is now going to use across all their platforms, across all of their fundraising campaigns. If they start with something that's really deep and impactful, then they can continue to raise the funds because they have this tool, this marketing fundraising tool. And the ones that don't have a good tool and a good story and something that is emotional, that people will feel like, okay, I know times are hard, but I'm still going to give my $25 every month. You have to be able to inspire people to do that. So that's what I was talking about today. And I have many case studies of clients that have started with a $5,000 grant and been able to multiply that into like $150,000 in their fundraising total. So, sometimes those small grants can really turn into big impact.
Yeah, and I think if you start off with a really decent project, it has a multiplier effect. Like you said, if you set them with a great story, they can build off that with other campaigns. That can also help when you showcase what you did with the last grant. Like everybody wants to be successful, like whether it's somebody investing in you to get something done for the business, but even more so on the nonprofit side, they want to show we did like a lot of these nonprofits sometimes are pulling money from other, like there's some that go and get the money and then they disperse it to other charities. So the one thing that gratifies how well you did is the analytics. So how many people do you impact? What are those impacts? You got a lot of stories that I can share back to help me go get the next round of funding, right? So when you start off with a great story and somebody does a really good campaign for you, that can give you legs to win others and just like everything in business, right? If you invest it well. So I think it totally makes sense. What's on your plate there, Kimberly? I saw your last post about summer writing, and I thought those are really good ideas. If people are going off and trying to use an excuse like it's summer, I'm not gonna do anything. I think you gave some really good ideas in terms of what those are. You're welcome to share those if you want. I don't know if everybody's read your post.
Thank you. Yeah, so I don't think I know Preston or Michael. So I'm a copywriter based in Milton. So a lot of blog writing, social media, newsletters for mostly small businesses. And so AI has obviously been a big thing with my business and really trying to tell the stories of small business owners. And so I just shared in my recent newsletter some summer writing ideas of a lot of people, like Richard just said, go away in summer and they think, oh, I don't need to post on social media or do a newsletter. But there are just ways that you can repurpose your content so that you don't always have to think of something new. So yeah, I can share those in the app. I can share a link to those summer writing ideas.
Hey, Preston, just share with Kimberly what you do, just so she knows. I forgot to ask you to do that.
How you doing? So I run a digital marketing agency. I've met with Miranda and Marta and a lot of the other folks on here. I generally help with digital marketing solutions, more along the idea of technology and connecting your overall online presence. One of the big things I'm about is helping business owners align everything. A lot of people have multiple tools that don't actually connect with each other. So like, you got social media, Facebook doing one thing, Instagram doing something different. Your LinkedIn got forgotten about. You got Calendly, but it's not linked back to the funnel. So I'm trying to help everybody that I meet within my wheelhouse, bring everything into one space, which I call a command center. And then all those fancy techie things I talk about, now it becomes super easy for you. So one of the key things is also copywriting. So blog writing and stuff like that, having that in one place so the business owner can view, approve, and publish with you.
Awesome.
Nice.
Thank you, Preston. That's very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Michael, oh, go ahead. Sorry, Preston. Finish.
No, go ahead. I said I'd love to connect with you sometime, Kimberly, get to know a little bit more about you and reconnect with Miranda. It's been a while.
Likewise, absolutely.
And Preston, on that note, I should say, don't forget to sign up for the matchups, right? The within the app itself, if you sign up for that and you say your own cadence, it'll tie you together with people and do an introduction email for you. So you don't actually have to do any work. It sets the connections in play. So
Awesome.
take advantage of that so you don't forget about it. Michael, you had your hand up. Sorry, and we went on a little long. Did you?
No, just briefly, because I know there's a couple of people that still have to introduce themselves. But on the note of copywriting, I've been obviously spending a lot of time with my friend Claude, and so one of the little pastimes that I've been doing is with the LinkedIn post, like copy pasting into Claude and asking what the probability is of this is AI generated, and then guessing, and because you can so easily pick up what is that I'm now not wanting to use it as much. I'd rather take the grammatical errors than sound like the rest of the slop that's being generated. So I see huge value in your work, and thank you for the introduction, Preston, because I may need to talk to you about all of those other services as well. I have some ideas for cross marketing. I'm only using LinkedIn right now.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely.
Hey, Christina, are you able to talk, or I know you're off camera, but are you able to talk, or? I was going to mention to her. So then Mark said,
sorry,
tell
I am
Michael.
able to talk. I
okay,
apologize.
sorry.
I was looking for. I am sorry. Yeah.
Okay, I wasn't sure because you just stepped away. So I peeked in on, and this is like a stretch, and I'm just going to get your 2 cents on it, not to stump you or anything like that. But I watched an Adobe presentation because I was Northern's dipping into that pretty heavily, and they recently bought SEMrush as one of the most recent purchases. They've always had the analytics platform. They bought it used to be called Oventure. I can't remember. I'm not saying that right now. Ovint. Oventure, I think it is. Pastor, you remember that one, the Adobe Analytics one? What it used to be called? It's okay. Never mind. We'll just pretend that I'm correct. Anyhow, they bought that analytics. They bought they've got a bunch of different tools. They do a workflow system called Adobe Workfront. They have an asset manager. They have the sites, and they have their big thing is like almost like Lego integrating them. But they did a presentation recently. Sorry, I said Adobe, and it was actually Google. Anyhow, that's a lot about Adobe. Google did a presentation. totally left field, and they really dug into, definitely AI search that came up a lot. But they really leaned in heavily on the YouTube portion of it, and they're really it just felt like a lot of hat tipping towards influencers and creatives, and it just got me thinking, is this the world we're getting into, where there's going to be more individual participants rather than these big companies that are going to have a lot more play in there, and in terms of guiding and helping organizations get that sort of grassroots type of marketing out there, right? They were really talking about they had a bunch of creative creators on that they introduced and talked to, and those creators talked about different products and whatnot. I just found it really interesting. Have you seen an uptake in where Google and whatnot, or even paid media, or I don't know if it's anything you've been seen an uptake towards these individuals that are these influencers that are gathering more attention, and what your thoughts are about that?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. So in my day to day, I haven't, but ironically, I actually had a meeting yesterday with this woman that has this agency that brings together like she's from the Bollywood film community and brings together all South Asian influencers. And so yeah, she was speaking about like the huge demand and everything that they're doing with like whether with TIFF or with other. And she was very interested in kind of the integration in ads and whatnot. And so, yeah, ironically, influencers are not a huge part of my world, but I just had a call yesterday about it. So how that will affect yeah, like obviously YouTube is a big portion of for everything with Google. And so, and video in terms of engagement, like as Miranda knows, is so big. And so it does seem to make some logical sense there, but yeah, I don't have a deep point of view about influencers and video content, just that like YouTube absolutely growing, influencers. Yeah, there's very significant opportunities. And if it's an example of yesterday's conversation, that like niche influencers. I did some work with influencers when I was at Publicis for a little bit, and like it's a crazy world, those influencers. Like we had this Heineken 00 launch, like when the non-alcoholic version was getting launched, and like yeah, these influencers that have like whatever millions of, I think there's micro and macro influencers that are there, and it's a whole lot. Like you meet them, and within a second of meeting them, they're like, "Oh, can I follow you? Can you follow me?" I'm like, "I don't even know you yet," but it's how they get their influencer count so high.
I just found it like, so I keep thinking of like, even, okay, Preston was talking about using Claude to develop a website, and it sounds like it's getting simpler, but I guarantee that Preston's putting in different prompts than you and I would put in, right? Like just because of his background and what he's doing, right?
Yeah.
So I just see, and it reminds me, and I've said this before, my wife watches influencers. My wife is a shopper, she's not what she does for a living, but she could be easily a professional shopper. Like I go to the mall with her, I'm just an amateur rookie floating around, following behind her like a puppy, you know? And
That's why they have
she
the comfy
watches
chairs at the mall.
exactly, and with a great Wi-Fi. But she watches these influencers, and I've shared this story before. One of them used to work at like a Ritzy or something like that, and then when the pandemic came, you guys remember this story, they fired all their the frontline workers, right? And a lot of the people I'm listening to Google and like how whole, like I think it was Callum wrote a great newsletter this morning. If you guys haven't seen Callum's newsletter, talks about how that shopping circle is happening more and more in Google, and more in Google AI, and more in YouTube. And you're really just getting the end results of what happens at the end of the sale, right? I'm thinking how when that happens, it becomes machine to machine. People are going to rely more and more on references, right? On what do you think? What's your opinion? And I think these people that become these niche experts in these different, they're just naturally going to float to the top because they just, hey, I'm used to going back to this person from Mauritia. I'm used to going to a store and having somebody give me other than my husband who has absolutely zip opinion.
Yeah.
I'm used to somebody giving me an opinion. Does this fit together? Does this work together? Does it work? And like just putting
No,
out
it's
there,
a very good point in
like,
terms of
people
like
see,
whether it's influencers, but like whether it's reviews, like trusted reviews are
Yes,
massive.
yes.
Like we think of any of
Yeah.
us when we're looking to buy anything. So yeah, I guess that 100% that makes sense that it would extend to influencers. I thought when you started the question, you were going to talk about like Adobe's purchase of SEMrush and whether that was going to be a good thing or not a good thing.
I was all over the place. Christina. It's all right. You give me enough time, I'll talk myself into a circle. But yeah, no, I was like the SEMrush, the whole how they're just owning that complete customer journey is super interesting. But then Google's coming out with its own ownership of that customer journey through its own tools that it's had around for a long time, right? Go ahead, Miranda. You had your hand up there.
So, and Richard, I'm also not quite sure what the first question with the influencers was, but I will give you a little insight to, I actually work on an influencer project that I've been working on for the last 2 years with an Italian client, where we took Canadian food influencers to Italy on these educational tours. So we took maybe 10 influencers on 2 different tours. We took them to the olive groves where they were growing the olive trees. We took them to the it was very lovely, Christina. We took them to where they were pressing the olive oil. So it was quite an amazing educational tour. We took a few journalists as well. And what I have to say about influencers is that they are very transactional and somewhat superficial. So compared to the intelligent questions that the journalists would be asking of the man who's been growing these trees for 5 generations, the influencers were completely transactional. They were just taking selfies of themselves in the olive trees, and they weren't bothering to learn anything about anything, really. Super transactional, super just wanting to get paid. Like they wanted to get paid to be there, but it was an all-inclusive tour. There was no pay, but they were like, can I have some money for coffee, or can I? And I'm like, you guys are very transactional, very low quality in your questions and your information. And I didn't think that they actually really delivered very well on the content that they made, that they put on their pages. And then the other thing is, you don't actually own that content. They own that content. And once their stories are gone, once their posts are gone, like that's it. So you have to be really careful who you engage with. I'm starting the project again right now, actually, for the next 3 years. And we're going to be doing American influencers and taking the American influencers to Italy on the tour. And I've kind of learned from experience how to scope them out and really see, are they completely transactional? Do they just put anything on their page? Or do they actually have any interest or any kind of niche? And, the rule of thumb for me is, we don't want anyone who has more than 10,000 followers, because those people with the big numbers, they have high numbers, but they have very actually low engagement. So the engagement is low. The quality of the people who follow them is also low. So you find that those micro influencers, which is around 10,000, they have better quality followers and they make more effort in what they actually do.
Oh, I love that. That's super informative. Thank you so much, Miranda. Go ahead, Christina.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with Miranda in terms of kind of those like having more quality influencers. I think there is, if anyone does go into the influencer game, like, I don't know, key lessons that I learned when like it was one of my team members was managing kind of the influencers at Publicis, but I'm like, be very specific of what you're asking for them. Like in your contracts, like it'll be, you can't just say, oh, I'd like, can we do a story as well? It's like, okay, you want 1 story, 2 posts, this, that, whatever. I'd say scrub their socials beforehand. Like Samsung was doing something with them, and then it was so inauthentic. This happened kind of before I got there, but this one influencer was a die-and-hard Apple user, so Apple was everywhere throughout their social, and then suddenly one day they're just using a Samsung, and that's not going to actually have any influence if people know you're just basically shilling for $1 sort of right there. So yeah, so anyhow, that's just a couple of added points to Miranda's thoughts there.
I love it. I love it. Where I was going was more, is the individual going to get any kind of power back in this world coming up, and how will that happen? I guess the roundabout way of saying that, and who knows, right? We just don't know where this market's going. But I think there's a couple of things that came out of that from Miranda's, like having somebody that knows how to handle influencers and knows how to work with them. That's super important. I think the same thing would be in terms of PR, in terms of managing your PR, working with media outlets and getting sort of free publication, but somehow trying to nurture that story across, because if you're getting it for free, you kind of lose control of things, right? So that's interesting. I was going to ask, and you already answered it, like, I guess they're inviting the influencers to get that extra extension publication. Is that what the concept of the tour?
Yeah. So they invite the influencers to go on the educational tour in the hope that they are going, well, there is obviously a contract that says you will go on this tour and it'll be all included, and you will have to make so many pieces of content. But, when it comes down to the quality of the actual content that they make, sometimes it's kind of all about themselves and them posing at these lovely landmarks in Italy, and not so much the actual information about, the organic food that they're growing, or the sustainability of it, or the, multi-generational family owning these farmlands. Like they kind of miss the point in a lot of ways. And influencers are not cheap. Like you could pay influencers many thousands of dollars to make you a few reels, and the reels will be superficial, and then you don't own this content, and that's it. And they show it to their followers, but who really knows who their followers are. I mean, I've been seeing a lot of municipalities have been using influencers to say, oh, come to my small town, you know, it's so cute. We could go biking, we could go kayaking and have a nice lunch in a cafe. But they're finding that they spent so much money and it hasn't really made any return because these influencers are influencing everything. So unless it's a very specific niche, yeah, you need to stay away from that and be very careful who you choose.
It's expertise right there too. Like, so if they're really niche down, supposedly have an expertise in something. Yeah, I like that. That makes sense. Yeah, it was a great one. That was a great session, guys. I appreciate all the sharing. Allowing me to.
Before we go, can I
go ahead.
just
Yeah.
Can I just remind everyone that we do have 3 potential dates to play golf, either all the dates or whichever dates are available. There is a thread on the website under announcements. Richard, I don't know if you could bump it back to the top, maybe. I don't know if you can or what.
I can try. I'm going to see what I'll play with it. I'll comment on it. And I think that'll get it.
Okay.
Go to the top.
So
right. Or we'll just
I'll just tell you what the dates.
Announce it again. I'll see. I'll
tell you the dates. It's all Thursdays. So we have July 16th, August 20th, and September 17th.
Perfect.
So I know we had maybe 1, 2, 3, 4. We had at least 4 or 5 people that were interested. So if anyone else is interested in playing golf on any of those days, I'm going to choose probably that Derrydale course in Brampton or Mississauga.
Mississauga. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's a nice easy one. That one you got to call in for the time. So maybe I'll get onto that head. Do you want me to reach out to my network beyond B2B as well? See if there's others. I don't know if it makes sense getting the numbers bigger, just because people say they're coming and they won't come inevitably, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think it's open to anyone, right? I don't think it matters, but for Preston and Michael or anyone who hasn't seen the post, who wants to come and try golfing, only 12 holes, not 18 holes.
It is, and it's a pretty. I want to say it's a not difficult course, but it beat me up the other day when I played it. But I'm not like a top talent golfer as well. So, but it's like, so Derrydale has, I'm trying to think now, has par 4s, no par 5s.
Yeah.
A lot of par 3s and par 4s, and they take really good care of the sand traps are nice. The tee boxes are nice. The greens are nice. It's not a challenging green. It's pretty flat. Like you're not going to have a lot of undulations in the green. So it's something that you can definitely play at for your first time, or even if you're playing for a long time, you'll enjoy it as well. So, and it's pretty. It's right downtown, Mississauga, sort of. What is it, Darien? Is it Darien Highway 10? I never remember where the turn. It's off of Darien, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know.
I'll put it out there. Okay, I'm going to send an email around to everybody in B2B just in case people aren't going to the app, and I'll move it up in the attention of within the app as well. Thanks for reminding me.
Yeah. Do we know approximately what timing you're looking at doing? Like, is it a morning thing or is it?
I don't know. I think I need to call the golf course. I should probably call them this week and just make sure that they don't have any tournaments on those days. But even if they do, we'll just choose a different course for whichever day doesn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if it's a morning thing, like, or during the day, I'd definitely be in. So I can go back. Sorry, I think I expressed something.
Okay, morning's better.
I can respond.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you prefer mornings or like lunchtime till afternoon?
Or lunchtime, afternoon. Morning, lunchtime, afternoon. It's just at nights we typically head away. And so
was it those are weekdays or weekends? Or I can't remember now.
It's Thursdays.
Thursdays,
We just had it as Thursdays. I figure Thursday is probably a safe day. And it's not a week where you have an in-person meetup. So I think it's the other weeks.
Perfect.
I think maybe lunchtime, because if someone's coming from Hamilton, they might not want to come too early, or even, you don't want to be in Toronto traffic trying to get somewhere too early either.
Yeah, and it'll be easier to get a tea time at that time.
Yeah, around lunch, yeah.
Just retard. Yeah. Perfect. Okay, I'll amplify that. Miranda, thanks for the reminder. Appreciate it. All right, guys, have a fantastic June, and hopefully see you guys soon. All right?
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Bye.